Godless Thoughts on the Social Dilemma, September 28th, 2020. Like a previous post I did on another social shockwave found here, I sat down to watch The Social Dilemma this weekend, this time with my teenager in tow, determined to make a decent review of the film, if, for nothing else, than it being a decent film that is in need of one. This won't just be a paragraph or two of high praise for the hard-hitting investigative journalism in the piece. As much as the film is worthwhile, like all works of art, even this one has some problems with it, and those problems, in this case especially, are godless. As the film started with the awkward first takes of the tech experts that noticed the social dilemma, I started to notice a common theme among their joint worries. They all could see the problems facing them, because of them, even in recognition of the power and magnitude of the goods some of them have created. Still, they all seemed blissfully unaware that the origin of the problems they were seeing in the rise of the social dilemma, that problem is a complete lack of sin-forward theology. I have no doubt that each of the people interviewed had some concept of good and evil. All humans do, skewed or not. But in the way in which these tech geniuses and investors stumbled at the question of who is responsible for this problem was telling. Maybe the director was doing this on purpose, and if he was, it was brilliant. But when asked about the issue, they all drew a confused and complicated stares, like children being caught by their father in the garden asking who told you you were naked. With the answer being themselves. A knowledge of sin and a savior from it changes your use of the internet, and it shows when you ask people about it, and the thought of that dichotomy doesn't cross their minds or lips. The answer to who is responsible for not just these problems, but all problems online, is us, or rather, us sinners. The second problem is that this wasn't a fact-by-fact, idea-by-idea exposition on the problem itself. It was a narrative. In fact, 3 of them if you were looking closely. You had the story of the problem itself from Tristan Harris's perspective, for the most part, and the story of a family trying to break their phone's addictions at the request of the matriarch. And finally, the story of Ben's avatar self and the 3 faces of AI: AI advertising, AI engagement, and AI growth. This isn't a problem when addressing the issue. Most sermons do these days, weaving narratives to support a fact exposition or a truth in the long-form media isn't a horrible thing or even a dishonest thing. However, it can be if it's not explicit. When we watch an episode of The Trials of Nature, David Attenborough skillfully overlays his narrative over the scenes of the majestic wildlife being displayed for us. We get a hint of David's opinion of what a lion might be thinking as he hunts and kills the gazelle, and what the lion's motivations are and aren't in contrast, but these are overlaid with the lion actually hunting and eating said gazelle in the video. We don't get the gazelle or the lion with the social dilemma. What we get is a simplification of every fact and facet of these narratives' lives. This is understandable for Harris's perspective, trying to wrap your head around something that this would be hard, so to achieve that he simplifies his years of experience and first-hand knowledge for us to understand. But the other 2 narratives are telling in a way that finds new corner of godlessness to roost in. The perfect multicultural nuclear family and their teenage and preteen woes are a tired trope. So when it's adjusted to make the son so susceptible to online influence that he joins an extreme centrist protest rally because of failing boy-girl social skills, this alone should be something to make you think. Not only because of the concept of an extreme center political movement would be hard to find in real life, but rather it depends on the other side of the screen to happen, a screen populated by a 3-man team of evil and heartless characters. The AIs were a brilliant piece of work, but made decisions and calls based on Ben's activity or lack thereof online that only a human would, moral judgments and decisions that only a person with a theology of sin would make. They were the cartoon angel and devil on Ben's shoulders, his electronic conscience, if you will. And make no mistake, the black clothing and then contrast with beige and soft voice singular replacement at the end of the movie was intentional. Algorithms can be made to make those decisions, but again, we come to the godlessness of the presumptions of this film. Those algorithms aren't actually doing that. Their programmers are. Sinners cause the evil we find online, because sin is where evil comes from. It's not a single-minded trio of programming eccentricities doing this evil. It's a coder in Silicon Valley who did it. And who is that coder getting his virtues and vices from? When God is absent from the story, it usually means the devil is writing it. By this point in the film, when Ben is getting arrested at a rally, we're finally seeing the true dark side of the vanilla web, a light sprinkling of bitter chocolate on a quickly melting sundae. Some really dark sweetness is avoided, like the silent killers that they are, and for the life of me, I can't tell why. This movie doesn't come close to the issue of online pornography, not once. In all the narrative back and forth, the teenage boy somehow finds an extreme political movement to join post-friend zone before he finds Pornhub. Not only is this not realistic, it's selective avoidance. But the film also skirts the actual problem that's being faced on these social networks. The amount of teenage porn that transfers on these networks and on their devices, teens sending pictures of themselves and others that they get a hold of them, is staggering. This is a hot button topic. Even this hot button topic isn't even grazed. Neither is the real-time absence of these concerns for even worse crimes like human trafficking and child sex exploitation. Entire swaths of wrong exchanged for fake right, narrative or two, that can't be compared and hence aren't scrutinized for truth. Which brings me to my final problem. This wholesale avoidance of the partiality found on these social networks. To show these social networks somehow exist with such control and algorithmic manipulation is only after the effect of the humanized algorithms is blatantly ignorant or knowing of it, if I'm right, about the controversial topic about online censorship. Everyone from the ground floor workers to the CEOs of these social networks has been called out for this, from online comments to U.S. Senate hearings, all on the topic of online censorship. Ideological bias runs deep on these platforms, and to have a documentary not mention this topic once, but insist through a series of narratives that the algorithm is the biggest problem, is not just wrong, it's godless, a kind of partiality that doesn't recognize its own trappings. By the end of the film, I realized what I was looking at. Not a single-sided view of the issues, but a half-blind stumbling into the real moral issues of the dilemma. One we face as a society, connected race of humans, we're slowly becoming and chasing the dream of heaven, but in doing so with human means. In heaven, we will be truly known as we truly know, and online we can only know by that which we edit or filter or for what is exposed, for what we actually are in our actions and deeds. All it takes is the latest data breach or hack. In heaven, there will be no sin, only virtue. Online, we can be any kind of sinful we want, so long as we can find our community and call it virtue with. The social dilemma isn't a problem of man and machine interacting in suboptimal ways. It's an ever more accurate version of heaven, just without Jesus involved, which is no heaven at all. What every social network needs is more Christians being Christians, acting as if God's will would be done online as it is in heaven. It's a shameless book plug, I know. But Ben's political leanings could have been challenged by weekly attendance at church. His family struggles to limit phone use, blessed by a prayer shared around the table instead of politics and rules for the sake of the rules. Unashamed and unafraid Christian friends to challenge Ben's involvement and posting online extreme centrist groups and posts, and Christian communities to be involved with where there's teenage romantic affections that could exist and be directed to godly partners of the opposite sex, both online and offline. The social dilemma isn't just a problem of humans interacting online. It's a problem with Christians not interacting with humans online. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how then shall saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all the houses. And in the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Matthew 5:13-16, English Standard Version.